Welcome back to our channel for another deep dive into the emotional labyrinth of our favorite daytime drama. Today is a spectacular day to unpack the latest, most heart-wrenching developments from the halls of Forrester Creations, where power, loyalty, and legacy are colliding in ways we never thought possible. The atmosphere inside the design office at Forrester Creations has never felt more suffocating, transforming what was once a vibrant sanctuary of artistic expression into a sterile graveyard of broken dreams. The afternoon sun casts long, melancholic shadows across the hardwood floors, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the heavy, silent air. Hope Logan Spencer stands amidst a fortress of cardboard boxes, her hands moving with a mechanical, heartbroken precision as she meticulously packs away the physical remnants of hope for the future. Every sketch she places into the dark confines of a box feels like a eulogy for a brand she poured her entire soul into. The air is thick with the unspoken tragedy of a woman who has been systematically marginalized, pushed to the absolute brink by a corporate regime that values cold, hard numbers over the beating heart of humanistic design. The silence in the room is deafening, punctuated only by the crisp sound of paper sliding against cardboard, a sound that signifies the end of an era and the beginning of a devastating corporate war. Hope's internal state is a turbulent ocean of conflicting emotions, a violent storm of righteous anger, profound disillusionment, and a desperate yearning for liberation. The condescending echo of Steffi Forrester Finnegan's voice reverberates relentlessly in her mind, specifically that final, dismissive challenge. Or what? It was the ultimate insult, a verbal slap in the face that shattered the last remaining illusions Hope held about her future within the company. Steffi's dictatorial decision to repeatedly stall the HFTF line in favor of prioritizing Eric Forster's couture collection was not just a business maneuver. It was a deeply personal attack, a calculated effort to erase Hope's influence and assert absolute, unyielding dominance. Hope feels the burning sting of betrayal, the agonizing realization that no amount of success, no amount of positive messaging, and no amount of hard work will ever be enough to earn her rightful place at a table controlled by Steffi's iron fist. Standing in stark contrast to the suffocating environment of Forrester Creations is the tantalizing, golden promise of the Logan brand, a siren song orchestrated by the strategic brilliance of Liam Spencer. Liam has been the persistent voice of reason and rebellion in Hope's ear, offering her an oasis of creative freedom and a sanctuary where her talents would be worshipped rather than tolerated. The recent, explosive global success of Katie and Bill Spencer's debut fashion collection has proven that the Logan name is not just a competitor, but a burgeoning empire capable of bringing Forrester Creations to its knees. Liam's seductive offer represents more than just a job. It represents a kingdom where hope can reign supreme, far away from the toxic, labyrinthine politics of the Forrester family. The allure of this freedom is intoxicating, pulling Hope toward the exit with the magnetic force of a woman who has finally realized her own immense, undeniable worth. Just as Hope's fingers graze the edge of her final, most cherished design portfolio, preparing to seal the coffin on her Forrester career, the heavy oak door of the design office slowly creaks open. The figure that steps across the threshold is not the imposing, untouchable patriarch the fashion world reveres, but a deeply weary, fragile man carrying the crushing weight of a fracturing empire. Eric Forrester steps into the room, his usually impeccable posture sagging under the invisible burden of the corporate civil war raging within his walls. The lines on his face seem deeper today, etched with the profound sorrow of a creator who is watching his life's work slowly lose its moral compass. The contrast between the grand legend of Eric Forrester and the vulnerable, exhausted grandfather standing in the doorway is a jarring, heartbreaking sight that immediately commands the heavy atmosphere of the room. Eric's weary eyes sweep across the room, taking in the desolate landscape of cardboard boxes and barren drafting tables. For him, this is not merely an office being vacated. It is a visceral, terrifying visual representation of his company bleeding out its most vital talent. He sees in those boxes the physical manifestation of Steffi's reign of terror, the collateral damage of a leadership style that prioritizes ruthless ambition over the very humanity that built Forrester Creations from the ground up. The realization hits him with the force of a physical blow. The cold, calculating environment Steffi has cultivated is actively driving away the light, the optimism, and the soul of his legacy. The silence stretches between them, heavy with years of shared history, mentorship, and a mutual understanding that words are barely necessary to convey the magnitude of this tragedy. In a moment of breathtaking vulnerability, Eric crosses the room with a sudden, desperate urgency. Before Hope can lower the final sketch into the box, Eric reaches out, his trembling, aged hand closing firmly over her delicate fingers. The tactile imagery of the moment is profoundly moving. The warmth of his skin, the slight tremor in his grip, the desperate strength of a man clinging to the edge of a cliff. He physically stops her momentum, arresting the final act of her departure with a touch that is both a command and a plea. The texture of the sketch paper crinkles slightly between their joined hands, serving as a fragile bridge between the history they have built and the uncertain future that looms before them. The sheer emotional weight of his touch sends a shockwave through Hope, freezing her in place as she looks up into the eyes of the man who has been her ultimate mentor. When Hope meets his gaze, she is stunned to see that the great Eric Forster's eyes are swimming with unshed tears. This is a level of vulnerability she has rarely, if ever, witnessed from the titan of the fashion industry. He is not looking at her with the authoritative glare of a chief executive officer demanding compliance. He is looking at her with the raw, unfiltered desperation of a man whose heart is breaking. The corporate masks have been entirely stripped away, leaving only the raw, bleeding humanity of a founder terrified of what his creation is becoming. A single tear escapes, charting a slow path down his weathered cheek, an undeniable testament to the profound emotional agony tearing him apart from the inside out. His voice, when he finally speaks, is a hoarse, trembling whisper that shatters the silence of the room. He confesses, with a devastating honesty, that Forrester Creations will completely lose its soul without her presence. He articulates what Hope has always known, but what Steffi has aggressively tried to deny. That hope for the future is not just a clothing line, but the very heartbeat of the company. It is the humanistic approach, the message of inclusivity, the radiant optimism that balances the scales against the cold commerce of high fashion. Eric acknowledges that Hope's vision is the essential light that prevents the Forrester empire from descending into a sterile, soulless corporate machine. His words are a profound validation of her entire life's work, a tearful admission that she is not just an employee, but the spiritual anchor of his legacy. But Eric does not stop at praising Hope. He ventures into a painful, terrifying critique of his own flesh and blood. With a voice thick with sorrow, he admits his profound fear of Steffi's leadership. He speaks of the coldness that has infected his granddaughter's heart, the dictatorial, authoritarian rule that she wields like a weapon against anyone who dares to challenge her vision. Eric confesses that he is terrified that Steffi's ruthless business tactics, her obsession with power and dominance, will ultimately destroy the legacy he spent a lifetime building. He sees the irony with agonizing clarity. Steffi claims she is sidelining Hope to protect Eric's couture line, yet Eric himself views Steffi's actions as the very poison that is killing the spirit of his life's work. It is a stunning, unprecedented condemnation of the Forrester heir apparent by the patriarch himself. He begs her. The word hangs in the air, heavy and undeniable. Eric Forrester is begging Hope Logan not to leave. He pleads with her not as a boss negotiating a contract, but as a grandfather pleading for the salvation of his family's soul. The emotional manipulation, whether intentional or born of pure desperation, is staggering. He is placing the entire moral weight of the Forrester legacy squarely onto Hope's shoulders creating an ultimate guilt trip intertwined with genuine, profound love. He is asking her to be the shield against his own granddaughter's darkness, to stay and fight a war she was ready to abandon, simply because the creator of the universe is telling her that she is the only one who can save it. Hope is struck by a sudden, paralyzing internal conflict. The warring factions within her heart clash with violent intensity, bringing her emotional momentum to a screeching halt. She stands entirely frozen, the sketch still clutched in her hand, her fingers entangled with Eric's. The sheer, unadulterated shock of the patriarch begging her to stay short-circuits the righteous anger that had been propelling her toward the door. Just moments ago, her path was clear, her mind made up, her heart hardened against the Forrester family's relentless disrespect. Now, the ground beneath her feet has shifted entirely, plunging her into a psychological tug-of-war that threatens to tear her psyche completely in half. On one side of the chasm lies the magnetic, undeniable allure of the Logan brand. Leaving Forrester Creations would not just be a career move. It would be the ultimate, devastating victory in Liam's strategic playbook. It would mean embracing absolute creative freedom, surrounded by a family that fiercely protects its own, in an environment completely devoid of Steffi's suffocating condescension. Defecting to Logan would cripple Steffi's narrative, proving once and for all that Hope is an irreplaceable icon whose value transcends the Forrester name. It is the path of liberation, of self-respect, and of righteous vengeance against a regime that treated her like an expendable pawn. Liam's voice whispers in her memory, promising a kingdom where she never has to beg for scraps of respect again. On the other side of the chasm stands Eric Forrester, his tear-filled eyes anchored to hers, representing a profound, inescapable loyalty. How could she simply walk away when the man who mentored her, the man who gave her a platform when she was just a girl with a dream, is standing before her, weeping for the soul of his company? The psychological depth of Eric's move is staggering. He is effectively handing her the ultimate armor against Steffi. If she stays, she does not stay as a marginalized designer. She stays as the patriarch's chosen savior, armed with his explicit blessing and his desperate plea. The love she holds for Eric is a deep, foundational part of her identity, and the thought of abandoning him to the cold, authoritarian future he so deeply fears feels like a betrayal of her own compassionate nature. The dramatic irony of the situation is incredibly thick, a suffocating blanket over the entire corporate landscape. Steffi has built her entire current strategy around the premise that Eric's couture line must be the absolute priority, using her grandfather's legacy as the ultimate excuse to kill Hope's line. Yet here is Eric, explicitly rejecting that excuse, willing to sacrifice the prioritization of his own couture if it means keeping Hope's humanistic light within the building. Steffi's entire thesis has been dismantled by the very man she claims to be protecting. Hope realizes with a sudden, sharp clarity the immense, unparalleled power she now holds in her trembling hands. She is no longer the victim of Steffi's boardroom politics. She is the undisputed linchpin of the entire Forrester empire. But the impending explosion that this moment guarantees is a terrifying prospect. What happens when Steffi Forrester Finnegan discovers this ultimate betrayal? The psychological profile of Steffi is defined by her fierce, almost obsessive dedication to the Forrester bloodline. She firmly believes that she, and she alone, is the ultimate protector of her grandfather and his legacy. The absolute, volcanic eruption of rage that will consume Steffi when she learns that Eric bypassed his own flesh and blood to beg a Logan to stay will be catastrophic. To Steffi, this will not just be a disagreement over staffing. It will be the ultimate insult to her leadership, a profound, unforgivable betrayal by her grandfather, and a declaration of total war by Hope. The ripple effects of this intimate, tearful moment in the design office will completely reshape the corporate war currently engulfing Los Angeles. Brooke Logan, already radicalized and highly motivated to fight for Steffi's co-CEO seat, will view Eric's plea as the ultimate ammunition. If the founder of the company believes Steffi's coldness is destroying his legacy, Brooks' crusade to dethrone Steffi transforms from a mere power grab into a righteous, necessary mission to save Forster Creations from itself. Eric's tears have effectively legitimized the Logan family's assault on Steffi's throne, providing the moral high ground that Brooke needs to execute a ruthless corporate coup. Furthermore, this moment serves as a chilling vindication of Carter Walton's prophetic warnings. Carter sat down with Ridge and Steffi, explicitly warning them that their arrogant, dictatorial decisions would have severe, unavoidable consequences. He saw the fracture coming. He predicted the catastrophic fallout of sidelining hope, and his warnings were met with stubborn, blinding hubris. Eric's desperate, tearful plea in the design office is the physical manifestation of Carter's ignored prophecy. The chickens are finally coming home to roost, and the foundation of Forster Creations is cracking under the weight of Steffi's unchecked ambition. Meanwhile, figures like Donna Logan are forced to watch from the sidelines as this corporate warfare threatens to permanently destroy the familial bonds they hold dear. The war between the Logans and the Forresters has reached a terrifying fever pitch, transcending mere business competition and evolving into a battle for the very soul of their intertwined histories. Katie's relentless ambition to poach hope, Liam's strategic manipulation, Brooke's maternal fury, and Steffi's cold authoritarianism have created a toxic vortex that is pulling everyone into its destructive orbit. And at the absolute center of this vortex stands Hope Logan Spencer, holding a sketch in her hand, with the tears of a legend falling upon her fingers. The final image of this moment is a frozen tableau of incredible emotional power. The silence in the room returns, heavy with the weight of a decision that will define the next decade of the bold and the beautiful. The setting sun dips lower, casting the design office in a twilight glow, mirroring the twilight of the Forster Empire as they know it. Eric's breathing is ragged, his eyes searching Hope's face for any sign of salvation. Hope's heart races, her mind caught in an excruciating loop between the freedom of the Logan brand and the profound, inescapable loyalty to the weeping patriarch before her. Which path will she choose? Will she embrace the liberation Liam promises, or will she stay to fight a brutal, bloody war for the soul of Forster Creations, armed with the tears of its creator? The choice